June 16th, Kansas City. Lionel Messi scores 3 goals, a hat trick, his first ever at a World Cup. He's 38 years old and crying on the pitch. The same night, Kylian Mbappe scores 2, Erling Haaland scores 2, Harry Kane scores 2. 9 goals, 4 superstars in less than 48 hours. Then June 17th arrives, Houston, Texas. Cristiano Ronaldo walks onto the pitch for his 6th World Cup. 90 minutes later, he walks off, scoreless, goalless, nearly invisible, as opposing fans chant another man's name directly at his face. 25 touches, 17 backwards passes, 3 shots, all off target. This is not a story about one bad game. This is the story of a question that football has been avoiding for 2 years, and that the 2026 World Cup just answered in the most brutal way possible. Before we get to Houston, we need to understand what Ronaldo himself told the world going into this tournament. Not what his manager said, not what his teammates said, what Ronaldo himself said publicly, on camera with his name attached. Earlier this year, Ronaldo partnered with fitness technology company Whoop for a comprehensive physiological assessment. The results, shared publicly across social media, gave him a biological age of 28.9 years, meaning his body performs like someone almost 12 years younger than his actual age. Whoop's breakdown was extraordinary. Inflammation markers in the bottom 1% globally, oxygen delivery rivaling elite marathon runners, metabolic efficiency at levels typical of athletes 12 years younger. Ronaldo's response was immediate. "The data doesn't lie," he posted. He then suggested he could play for another 10 years. "That means I'm going to be playing for another 10 years. He also confirmed this would be his last World Cup, framing 2026 as his final chapter, one last chance at the only trophy that has eluded him. The biological age of a 28-year-old, the resume of the greatest scorer in the history of the sport. The data doesn't lie. Remember that line, because football also produces data, and the two data sets are about to tell very different stories. To understand what Ronaldo walked into on June 17th, you need to understand what the 48 hours before his match looked like. Tuesday, June 16th, a day that will be remembered as one of the most extraordinary in World Cup history. Messi, Mbappe, and Haaland combined for 7 goals across their opening matches in less than 24 hours. Start with Messi. In Argentina's 3-0 win over Algeria, the 38-year-old scored a hat trick, his first ever at a World Cup, and in doing so tied the all-time World Cup scoring record with 16 goals, drawing level with Germany's Miroslav Klose. He also broke the record for the oldest player to score a hat-trick at a World Cup, a record that until that night had belonged to Cristiano Ronaldo. Messi left the pitch in tears. His teammates surrounded him. Even the opposition coach, after watching his team demolish 3-0, told reporters, "Class is permanent." Then Mbappe. France's captain scored twice against Senegal, becoming France's all-time leading scorer in international football with 58 goals. At just 27 years old, he moved into a tie for 4th on the all-time World Cup goals list with 14, 3 shy of breaking the record Messi had just equaled that same night. Then Erling Haaland, Norway striker in his country's first World Cup since 1998, scored twice against Iraq in a 4-1 win. His first World Cup, 2 goals, immediate. And then Wednesday arrived. Harry Kane, 2 goals in England's 4-2 win over Croatia, tying Gary Lineker's 10 World Cup goals for England. In total, across just 48 hours, these 4 players scored 9 goals between them, and then Ronaldo walked onto the pitch in Houston. The contrast wasn't just statistical, it was generational. On one side, a 38-year-old Messi breaking records and crying with joy, a 27-year-old Mbappe becoming his country's all-time scorer, a 25-year-old Haaland announcing himself on the biggest stage in his first appearance, a 31-year-old Kane tying England's legends. On the other, a 41-year-old Ronaldo carrying the weight of the most scrutinized career in the history of the sport, walking out against DR Congo, a team that hadn't played a World Cup match in 52 years. DR Congo, a team ranked outside the top 50 in the world, a nation that had never scored a single goal at a World Cup in their entire history, playing their first World Cup match in 52 years. Portugal, fifth in the world, Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, Pedro Neto, Vitinha, Rafael Leao, one of the deepest attacking squads Portugal has ever assembled, led by Cristiano Ronaldo. In just a 6-minute, João Neves headed in a Pedro Neto cross. Portugal 1-0. The stadium, filled almost entirely with Portugal supporters, erupted. And then came 84 minutes of almost nothing. DR Congo's 6 attempts in the first half alone tripled Portugal's shot count. Yoane Wissa headed in a corner just before halftime. 1-1. DR Congo's first ever goal at a World Cup in just their 32nd ever attempt. In the second half, Portugal had 75% possession, the highest possession figure recorded by a team that still had fewer shots than their opponent. All that ball, no end product. Final score, 1-1. Now the numbers, because this is where the story of what happened to Ronaldo specifically becomes impossible to ignore. Ronaldo played the full 90 minutes. He finished with 25 touches of the ball. 25 in 90 minutes of football at a World Cup, as the designated center forward of a tournament favorite. That is the second fewest touches Ronaldo has recorded in 23 World Cup starts across 6 tournaments. The only time he touched the ball less in a World Cup start was the infamous 2006 Battle of Nuremberg, a match against the Netherlands that devolved into pure physical chaos, saw 4 red cards, and bore no resemblance to a normal game of football. Wednesday in Houston was a normal game against a team outside the top 50, and Ronaldo touched 25 times. Of his 22 attempted passes, 17 went backwards, not sideways, backwards. 17 of 22 passes directed away from goal, away from the action, recycling possession rather than driving it forward. 3 shots, all off target. In the 70th minute, a pass landed just behind Ronaldo. He tried to play it first time and kicked it into his own leg, wide. Minutes later, a brilliant Fernandes pass split the DR Congo defense wide open and found Ronaldo in space. His shot trickled wide. Now the detail that cuts deepest. Rafael Leao came off the bench after 72 minutes. He played 18 minutes. In those 18 minutes, he recorded 14 touches, nearly matching Ronaldo's count across the entire 90 minutes. Ronaldo's 25 touches was the joint fewest of any outfield player who featured for the full 90 minutes. Not just the fewest among Portugal starters, the fewest of anyone on the pitch who played the whole game. And one more number, the most important one. Ronaldo is now scoreless in his last 10 games at a major tournament. 10 games across the 2022 World Cup, Euro 2024, and now the opening match of 2026. 10 years of major tournament football without a goal from the man who scored in 5 consecutive World Cups. While Messi broke his hat-trick record the night before, while Mbappe scored twice, while Haaland scored twice, while Kane scored twice. 9 goals between 4 players in 48 hours. 0 goals for Ronaldo in 10 straight major tournament games. There's one specific detail from Tuesday night that deserves its own section, because it didn't just put pressure on Ronaldo, it changed the record books in a way that can't be undone. When Messi scored his 3rd goal against Algeria, he became the oldest player to score a hat-trick at a World Cup at 38 years old. That record had belonged to Ronaldo. Think about that for a second. A record Ronaldo held, a milestone with his name on it, was broken by his greatest rival the night before Ronaldo walked onto a World Cup pitch and recorded 25 touches. Messi asked about the record afterwards. His response was characteristically disarming. It's just a statistic and nothing more. For me, Ronaldo was one of the greatest, and he isn't top of the list, so it's just a statistic. He wasn't dismissing the record, he was contextualizing it. But those words land differently when read alongside what happened in Houston 24 hours later. Messi broke Ronaldo's record. Then Ronaldo couldn't score against a team that had never scored a World Cup goal in their entire history. And when Ronaldo walked off the pitch at full time, DR Congo fans, not Portugal fans, not neutrals, but the fans of the team that had just drawn with Portugal, chanted another man's name directly at his face. That name was not Ronaldo's. Here is what needs to be said clearly. Wednesday in Houston was not a sudden collapse. It was the latest and most public moment in a pattern that has been building for 2 years. The questions about Ronaldo's effectiveness at international level didn't begin at this World Cup. They began at the last one. At the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, Ronaldo struggled through the group stage. His only goal came from a penalty. And then, in the knockout rounds, Portugal coach Fernando Santos made a decision that would have been unthinkable 2 years earlier. He dropped Ronaldo for their round of 16 match against Switzerland. Portugal won that match 6-1, without Ronaldo starting. 6 goals, their biggest World Cup knockout win. And the question it raised, that the team might actually function better without him leading the attack, never received a clean public answer. Then, Euro 2024, Ronaldo failed to score across the tournament, missed an extra-time penalty against Slovenia, and broke down in tears on the pitch, a moment that split football fans between sympathy and scrutiny. Former England manager Sam Allardyce delivered the verdict that many in football were thinking but not saying publicly. They've got so much talent and so much ability on the ball, but they're having to carry Ronaldo now. Even though he is still very fit for his age, he simply doesn't have the same energy levels anymore. The other players have to carry him. And then the sharpest observation, Roberto Martinez won't be brave enough to drop Ronaldo. Portugal went out in Euro 2024 quarterfinals on penalties to France. Ronaldo didn't score in that tournament. Fast forward to 2026. New tournament, same manager, same captain, same questions. And after Wednesday in Houston, the same answer on a bigger stage with a bigger contrast around it than any previous performance. The manager's defense. Roberto Martinez didn't hide after the match. He stood in front of cameras and defended his captain directly. It makes no sense to get the best goal scorer in world football out in a game that you need goals, Martinez said. For us, in moments like this, the experience of Cristiano in the box is important. The way that he attracts defenders is important. The way that we can use the space is important. He also acknowledged the tactical problem, saying his side had to do a better job at feeding Ronaldo, framing the issue as a team failure rather than an individual one. There is some merit to that argument. Portugal's midfield connection to their forward was poor. The service was inconsistent. But here is the counter-argument that the numbers make quietly. A player who touches the ball 25 times in 90 minutes, sends 17 of 22 passes backwards, and is nearly matched in involvement by a substitute who played 18 minutes, isn't just being let down by his teammates. He's also not imposing himself on the game, not demanding the ball, not creating his own opportunities the way a center forward at a World Cup needs to. And while Roberto Martinez was defending Ronaldo in his press conference, the Golden Boot standings showed Messi on 3 goals, Mbappe on 2, Haaland on 2, Kane on 2. Ronaldo, 0. Implications. What happens now? Portugal still have 2 group games, against Uzbekistan and then Colombia. They have the squad depth to recover. The talent around Ronaldo is extraordinary. If that talent is allowed to operate without being shaped entirely around the 41-year-old striker who struggles to stay involved in open play, Portugal could go very deep into this tournament. But that is precisely the tension at the heart of this team. Their best football may come in spite of their greatest player, not because of him. For Ronaldo personally, he still has time. He scored in 5 consecutive World Cups and could still become the first player ever to score in 6 if he finds the net against Uzbekistan or Colombia. That record still matters. That chase is still real. But the question Wednesday forced is bigger than goals. It's about role. It's about whether a 41-year-old, regardless of WHOOP data, regardless of biological age metrics, regardless of dedication to his physical condition, can still be the player a World Cup contender builds its attack around in 2026. While his rivals, some of them a decade younger, some of them his own age, are breaking records and scoring hat-tricks and announcing themselves on the biggest stage in the sport. Ronaldo's message after the game was simple. It wasn't the start we wanted, but this is far from over. He's right that it isn't over, but the start that every other superstar had in the same 48-hour window makes his start land differently than it would have otherwise. Let's put the full picture on the table. 48 hours. Messi, hat-trick, record broken, tears of joy. Mbappe, 2 goals, France's all-time leading scorer. Haaland, 2 goals, World Cup debut. Kane, 2 goals, England legend status. Ronaldo, 25 touches, 17 backwards passes, 3 shots off target, 0 goals, Messi chants from the opposing fans, and a record, oldest hat-trick scorer at a World Cup that now belongs to someone else. Cristiano Ronaldo has spent 23 years defying every timeline anyone placed on him. At 36, they said he was finished. He scored 36 goals in a season. At 38, they said he was done. He scored over 100 goals in 2 years in Saudi Arabia. At 40, a company told the world his body was 28 years old. He said the data doesn't lie. But football also produces data. And the data from June 17th in Houston is unambiguous. The doubters didn't just say Ronaldo was finished. They said his presence in the starting lineup was limiting what Portugal could become. That a team this talented was being shaped around the player who could no longer justify that central role at the highest level. Wednesday gave those doubters a World Cup stage and 90 minutes of evidence. Portugal's next match is against Uzbekistan. Ronaldo will almost certainly start, and the entire world football world will be watching, not just to see if he scores, but to see if the man who said the data doesn't lie can produce a different set of numbers. Because right now, 2 sets of data are telling 2 completely different stories about Cristiano Ronaldo. And the World Cup, with its unblinking cameras, its 68,000 witnesses, and the shadow of 9 goals scored by 4 other players in the 48 hours before he took the field, has just become the most unforgiving place on earth to find out which one is true.